For anyone who's tried meditation, we've learned that it can be really challenging. And these kinds of obstacles in some traditions are often referred to as hindrances, and they've lumped them into five. The first hindrance or obstacle to really being able to do meditation is often referred to as sensual desire, craving, that kind of thing, this wanting mind. The second one is aversion, anger, hatred. I don't want, okay? The third one that's often referred to or talked about is a kind of a sluggishness, a sleepiness, this lack of energy to keep it going. Very common. The fourth is agitation, restlessness, anxiety. A lot of us are pretty familiar with how that can show up. And the last one is doubt. Now, all of these, especially the first four, show up in our life day to day, and they can be problems in trying to function and get along with other people. But we're talking about meditation practice today and how it can affect us in our ability to sustain and keep doing a practice. Because the problem is that it makes it much harder if we don't learn how to work with these. So let's focus today on doubt, the fifth one, which in many ways is the most insidious. It's the one that can just pull our legs right up from underneath us, and we just say, you know what, I can't do this. I can't do this. And I hear this all the time from people who are beginners is, I just can't do this. So what this does is it creates impatience and uncertainty and indecision and certainly lack of confidence. And we start thinking that this is a lot more difficult than it really is. And it's important to remember that a mountain is climbed one step at a time. So here are some of the ways in which doubt can show up. One of them is, how do I know I'm doing it right? Maybe I'm doing this all wrong. Another one is, maybe the teacher doesn't know what he or she is doing. Maybe the practice isn't right for me is another one. You know, maybe you're trying mindfulness meditation and you think, oh, I think I'll try Sufi dancing. And there's so many things out there to do that a lot of times we'll jump from one to another without really sitting down and spending time working with one particular practice for a while. And it's because of doubt. Some of us may question the tradition itself. How did maybe the person that initiated this didn't really know what he or she was talking about. Maybe it's the wrong time. I'll wait next year and that'll be a better time. Or maybe when I get older, I'll be more settled down and all kinds of doubts show up. But the biggest one is, I can't do this. And the excuse I hear often, and I don't mean excuse in a negative way, is I can't sit still. Well, it's not necessary to sit still to do practice. And another one is, I can't quiet my mind. I can't stop thinking. Well, you don't need to stop thinking. That's a myth. And those two things, those are other videos, which I'll get to at some point. But let's talk now about how to work with doubt. I want to give you some ways of perhaps overcoming doubt if that's something that you're experiencing on a regular basis. And if you're not, you haven't meditated long enough, okay? It'll show up, trust me. So the first one is, get a good teacher, find a qualified teacher, and get good, clear instructions. Get feedback, get support. This is really important. And now, maybe you've got somebody in your area that you can go and meet with and sit with under the right conditions, because we're in a pandemic. But there's also Zoom. My meditation teacher lives in Flagstaff, Arizona, and I live in Asheville, North Carolina. And when I need to, I set up an appointment and we do a Zoom meeting. And it's really, really helpful to me. I need that feedback, even though I've been meditating almost 40 years. Develop a regular practice. If it's just 2 minutes a day, sit down and do your practice. And as you do this, you'll start perhaps building some confidence. I can actually do something. And that can be very, very helpful. Also, I'm going to do a whole other video on how to develop a regular practice. And you might find that helpful. I'm going to do that in the next few days. Another one is to approach it in small increments. Like I said before, maybe just start out 2 minutes a day. And then maybe do it a couple times a day for short periods of time. And then you think, well, maybe I'll do a retreat because I've heard retreats are great. Well, don't start out with a 10-day retreat. Do a half-day retreat. See, work your way up. Take baby steps, like, in that movie. What about Bob? I like that. Another thing is try to find inspirations wherever you can, either from other people or books or videos, movies. It can be very helpful to be able to inspire yourself to keep going. So find that wherever you can, because it's different for different people. Study the tradition, whatever teaching you're following. Find out what's behind it. Really take a little time and study and find out, yeah, there's something to this. That can be helpful. Another one is question deeply held beliefs about yourself. Let's go back to the one about, I can't stop thinking. Well, you know what? That's a story, And one of the biggest problems that we have as human beings is we believe all our stories. We believe all our thoughts. So start questioning your thoughts. Maybe you might notice patterns of thinking that don't just show up on your meditation cushion or in your chair, but show up in other ways. So really question those old ideas that you have about yourself that might be creating doubt in your practice. Be realistic. Okay, this is going to take time. It's like the mountain, right? One step at a time. And be patient with yourself. It's so important to do that. And when you notice that judgment arising, the doubt arising, just notice it and go, thank you for sharing. You can move along now. Nothing to see here. I'm just going to keep doing this. And here's the last one that I want to share with you. A lot of people say, well, I've been meditating regularly for 6 months, and every time I sit down, I'm still as crazy as I was when I sit down, and I'm just as restless, and I don't see any difference, and I haven't seen God yet, and I'm no closer to enlightenment. Here's what I want to tell you. The result, the benefit, the fruit of your labor, so to speak, is probably going to show up off the mat, so to speak. You're going to be driving down the road, somebody's going to cut you off, and instead of going nuts and blowing your horn and getting upset and then telling everybody where you ended up about the jerk that cut you off, you're just going to go, oh, wow, I'm really noticing a little bit of anger here. I'm noticing a tendency to get upset. You know what? I'm just going to breathe and keep going. And I hope that guy's okay. I hope there's not a problem. And then he'll stop and go, wow, look at me. Or all kinds of situations like that. That's where it shows up. And isn't that what we want anyway? We all want to be better people. We want to be kinder, more compassionate. We want to be kinder to others and to ourselves. And by doing this practice on a regular basis, that's going to start happening.